Good morning once again. Before we get into the agenda proper, I'm going to take us through the housekeeping, and then we will start the meeting. Okay. So as we all know that this meeting adheres to the WHO Code of Conduct for Prevention of Sexual Harassment and sexual harassment and abuse for all WHO events. So for the agenda, we are going to go to this agenda projected on the screen. We have update from Afro, we have experience from Kenya, and then the closing remarks. We have interpretation in 3 languages, actually: Portuguese, English, and French. So to select your most preferred language, just click on the globe icon and at the bottom of your screen, which is showing interpretation, you will see the 3 languages. Select the language you would like to listen to the webinar in. And then we have the chat function as well as the Q&A function. So for any issues related to the INB, WG, IHR processes, you can use the Q&A function to ask your questions. And then you can use the chat for anything related to IT or logistics. For instance, if you cannot hear us, you are not able to raise your hands, you can just type in the chat and you'll be given the opportunity to do so, and our team will also support you to make sure that the Zoom platform is functioning well. So this session will be recorded, and we will share the recording with all participants. We will also share the slides that will be presented today and any other relevant materials with all participants. So to kickstart the meeting, I would like to call on Dr. Dick Chamla to give us his opening remarks. Dr. Dick? Okay, if he's not there, Dr. Miriam Nanyuja, please.
Dr. Dick is not connected.
Okay. Dr. Miriam? Okay. So I jump in there.
This is Dr. Dick Chamla here, speaking from far.
Okay.
Did you hear me, Mary?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, apologies. We are actually in the middle of another meeting, but actually welcome all of you in this meeting. My name is Dr. Dick Chamla, and I'm the Program Area Manager for Emergency Preparedness in the WHO office in Africa, stationed in Brazzaville. It's great to have all of you attending this meeting because in Afro, as you are all aware, we have been prioritizing support to our African member states in having the common position in the ongoing 2 processes, namely Intergovernmental Negotiating Body and also IHR amendments. And in Afro also, we have created a roadmap, and in the roadmap, we been able to identify experts in Africa, and we had an expert group meeting early in the year in which we've collected a number of opinions on some of the contentious issues in which have been arising from either INB or IHR amendment process. And after that, we've also been able to organize an event in the beginning of August, in which we had the Regional Committee for Africa, in which also we had a number of the ministers of health who have attended we were also able to have another ministerial webinar in which we had the ministers of health from almost all African countries talking about how Africa will be able or to be heard in the number of issues in which are arising from these negotiations. So, I mean, as you know, all of these two global processes, either INB or IHR amendment, is a result of the lessons learned in which we have learned at the time of the COVID pandemic. And in the process, our Director General created the independent panel for pandemic preparedness and response at that time. And we have also other independent committees in which have been actually trying to take a stock to understand what went wrong in the response to the pandemic. So as the results, we have now two global processes in which are targeting on how to improve our international health regulations. And in total, there had been over 300 recommendations in which we've heard from a number of these independent committees on how to improve actually preparedness and response to a future pandemic. And we are glad now we are in the process in which in the last UNGA in New York, our heads of states have already now adopted a political declaration for pandemic preparedness, prevention, and response. And now we have remained with these two global processes in which you will hear from Mary and others in IHR Secretariat. Therefore, I wouldn't want to take a lot of your time, but I'll be here standing by to hear on the deliberations in which you'll be agreeing, and all the best from me. So over to you, Mary.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dick, for that elaborate speech. And thank you so much for your support for all these processes. So right now, I'm going to take us to an update of what has been happening. The last time we had the ministerial meeting, we noted that the NFPs were unusually quiet. So we felt that it would be helpful to have another briefing for the NFP so that we can be together and feel free to ask questions and bring everyone up to speed in the process. And then later on, we are going to hear from Kenya on their experience of how they have been coordinating at the national level, the process of this amendment together with their representative from Geneva. So we can have an idea of what countries can do to be more active in the process. So we have had this presentation several times, including the SPA meeting last year. But for the benefit of those that are just joining, just to have all of us on the same page, I'm going to start again from the beginning so that it will make sense, at least for the people that are new. So as Dr. Dick rightly mentioned in his opening remarks, during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the DG was asked to convene an independent review of the COVID-19 response. And this led to the establishment of different panels. Of note are the IPPPR, the Independent Panel on Pandemic Prevention and Prevention Preparedness and Response, and then the IHR Review Committee, which reviewed the function of the international health regulations during the COVID-19 response. And then we had the IOAC, the Independent Oversight Committee, which is an existing committee that works with the WHO Health Emergency Program since 2016. And then we had also a number of committees. You heard from Dr. Dick, we had a lot of recommendations that came from all these committees. And this was what led to the establishment at that time of what we call the WGPR, the Working Group on strengthening WHO preparedness and response. And this WGPR had the responsibility of looking at all these recommendations that were given by these experts to see how best they could be implemented. So they tried to group them into 4 broad areas. And they also had another mandate to look at, to consider the benefits of developing a pandemic instrument to support, complement the international health regulations. And this led to the convening of the second ever special session of the WHA, which happened in November 2021. And this second session was solely to look at these benefits of establishing the INB and developing the pandemic instruments. And in that session, the WHA special session, there was a decision to actually establish the INB and develop the pandemic instruments. In the same line, the WHA 2022, there was also a recommendation to undertake the review of the international health regulations. And this was what led to the establishment of the WGIHR, which was like an extension of the WGPR, but with a reviewed mandate. So this is just a general overview of what transpired before we started the INB and the WGIHR. So the decision, SSSA2, this is the special session of the Assembly that happened in November 2022, established the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body, which we call INB, and they had a specific mandate. And the mandate is for member states and associate members to draft and negotiate a WHO convention, agreement, or other international instruments on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response with a view to adoption under Article 19 or other provisions of the WHO Constitution and may be deemed appropriate. So this is word for word, the mandate for the INB. So both the INB and WGIHR has a coordination structure. So both processes have what we call the bureau established, and the bureau normally has 6 members, 2 co-chairs and 4 vice chairs. And these are actually from all the WHO regions, the 6 WHO regions. So for the INB, we have South Africa, and then we have South Africa and the Netherlands representing the INB as co-chairs, and then we have vice chairs. For the WGIHR, we have so I think it's Saudi Arabia. Sorry, Saudi Arabia and Netherlands, and then the INB has South Africa and New Zealand actually as co-chairs. And then for vice chair, we have Kenya as part of the vice chair for the WGIHR. So this is how the global process coordination is. And we all know that it is a member state-led process. So the process, most of you that are here knew how it started. So using those recommendations that Dr. Dick talked about that came from the IHR review panels, there was a platform that was established actually to identify what they call substantive elements. So all those recommendations were classified, and member states were asked to select what they think should be part of the international instrument itself. And I think we had about 24 countries from Africa that responded to that platform and provided input as to what they feel is important for the instruments. And in the process, so that was what they used to come up with what we call the working draft. In the process, there was also public hearings held by the DG Tedros to allow other stakeholders that are not officially part of the INB process, and they are not member states, to also provide additional input into all these elements that they think should be part of the instruments. As the process continues, there has been a lot of intersessional work to push the agenda forward. So from the working draft, we had the conceptual zero draft. So this working draft was actually presented at the RC last year, where member states provided their input. I remember we collated the input again and shared back with the team in Geneva, and we actually distributed it to the NFPs for feedback, and then we shared it back for those of you that gave the feedback. And then there was a conceptual zero draft. So in between, there has been INB meetings, and all the inputs from the meetings were what they put into the document to come up with the conceptual zero draft. And this led to the zero draft. And now we have what we call the Bureau's text. So basically what they did, they tried to reduce, because the document was very, very huge, to reduce the size of the document, but still making sure that all the key elements are captured. And this has been the document that is being used for the discussion so far. We have also shared the zero draft with all of you. This is what it looks like. There are different versions in the different languages. If you don't have, it's still available on the website. I have the link at the end of the slide. You can still go and look at it. So within this Bureau's text, there are 6 articles that are, okay, they are contentious. So the first 2 articles, Article 4 and 5, which talks about surveillance and the One Health approach. These ones, there has been a very good progress in terms of coming to consensus on what they think should be important for the pandemic instruments. But we also have Articles 9, 11, 12, and 13, which is looking at research, technology transfer, access and benefit sharing, supply chain, and logistics, which is still contentious and has been in discussion through the intersessional work to see how to move the agenda forward and come to some level of convergence in the process. Okay, so from there, there has been a lot of meetings, and the discussion will continue. The Bureau will help with the development of the legal text actually. So the document is going to read like a legal document. The language is going to change from the version of the Bureau text we have. They are going to change the language to incorporate the legal component. As we saw from the beginning, the mandate says the document should be adopted under Article 19, which is a legally binding instrument of the WHO Constitution or other provisions. So this is what is going to lead to the development of this legal text, and they will use the legal text then to start the discussion. Final negotiation will be the report of the final negotiation will be submitted to WHO in 2024. So the same thing with amendment of IHR. Everything will be submitted next year at the WHO. Okay, so regarding the IHR amendments, Dr. Dick has mentioned quite a bit in his opening remark, the issues around the IHR amendments. As you all know, everyone is familiar with the IHR, so I will not take time on this. It is currently the only existing legally binding instrument internationally that talks about the issue of epidemic prevention, preparedness, and response, with the view to prevent the international spread of disease. So the review of the IHR is not new. It started long ago, and it has gone through a lot of processes. You all know this story because we normally take you when we do the IHR onboarding. Okay. So the structure, the current structure of the IHR, this is what it is: 10 parts, 66 articles, 9 annexes. This is just to help you under different categories of the articles, to help you see when we talk about the amendment, what exactly are they going to amend. Okay, so like I said earlier, the discussion around the targeted amendment of the international health regulations started at the WHO last year, where we had submission from the United States for amendment of a number of articles, but at the end of the day, Article 59 was the only article that was amended, and this is talks about the time that any amendment to the regulations will come into force. Normally, in the current version of the IHR 2005, it's going to take 2 years if you amend the IHR for the new revision to come into force. So, but with this amendment, now it's going to take 12 months, like half the time, for the revision to come into force. So after 24 months from 2022, then we can use 12 months to for the revision of the international health regulations to come into force. And in the process of the IHR amendment, so member states felt that, okay, this should be open to all member states to submit their proposal and look at it in a comprehensive way. So member states were asked to submit to the DG, which they did in 2022. The WHO Africa region member states also did a submission. I remembered we circulated it again before they submitted to the DG, to all NFPs for input, which we compiled and submitted to the Geneva-based experts, and they submitted to, took into account your input and submitted to the DG, which formed part of the every article, every annex that was submitted. So in the process, the IHR Review Committee was convened again. So this is the IHR Review Committee on Targeted Amendment. It was convened and they looked at all the proposed amendments, gave their recommendation. Their report, again, is on the website. You will find it there. So as Dr. Dick earlier mentioned, we have 307 proposed amendments submitted. So basically, and 6 annexes, like half of the IHR itself is going for amendment. They are proposed 6 new articles, 2 new annexes. So these are the areas, they fall into the different categories, the different articles of the IHR. So you can look at the details when you receive the slides. So the progress so far, the IHR Review Committee had submitted their report in January 2023. And then the WGIHR has been meeting. They have done the general reading of the proposed amendments, including the reviewing the report of the review committee, and they are doing article by article review. Okay, so what is the expectation from member states now in the IMB and the WGIHR process? Like I said earlier, it is a member state-led process, and there is need for all member states to be active in these processes. We need country-level multi-sectoral coordination mechanism. I know quite a number of you have these coordination mechanisms already. We will see from Kenya how they are doing their own, so that you can see what other countries are doing, and others could also reflect on their own experience, how they are coordinating. There is also need for coordination between the Geneva-based experts and the country-level coordination team. I remember at the beginning when we were doing the collection of the substantive element, there was a lot of disconnect between the experts in Geneva and the country-level team. So we need to make sure that the countries are aligned and talking together as one. The next thing is to make sure that every meeting, you prepare your country position. Normally, the region also, the disconnected at some point. I'll take it again. Expectation from member states. We need country level coordination mechanism for both processes, WG, IHR, and INB. We need coordination between the country teams and the Geneva-based experts representing your countries. And before the meeting, every country is supposed to prepare your position concerning the articles that will be discussed per every meeting. And then you align, make sure you align with the Geneva-based experts because they normally come up with the regional position. And you align with them as well for your country position. The idea, Dr. Dick was talking about the side event we had at the RC. The idea is to mobilize the entire region so we can speak with one voice. When we speak with one voice, it's our position, it's heavier actually. It carries more weight than when individual countries. So when we speak with one voice, countries will just try to reinforce what is there so that the position of the region will be stronger. And we need active participation in both the main sessions and the intersessional work. Country teams are expected to debrief the ministers and senior government officials after each meeting. What we noted following both the high-level ministerial meeting and the side event at the RC is that there seem to be some of the ministers don't seem to be abreast with what is happening. So there seems to be some gap in terms of how they are debriefed after this meeting so that they are aware of what is happening. And what does WHO do? Again, this process is member state-led process. WHO helps to coordinate both at HQ and provide updates. They do information sessions as well for member states at the regional level. We provide technical support to countries, to Africa Group, as you heard from Dr. Dick, support the mobilization of countries to participate, and updates for WCO NFPs as we are doing today. The WCOs expected to support their country teams in the process and also provide the needed technical support. So what are the implications for lack of participation? The priorities for the region will not be adequately addressed. If you remember what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, when countries that are rich mobilized all the PPEs and everything, the vaccines, Africa was left behind. So we bore the greatest brunt of the challenges of the COVID-19. At the end of the day, when we got the vaccine, we got it late when other countries were able to protect their countries. And this is what we are trying to prevent from happening next time. And if we are not there, we are not on the table, then our voices will not be heard. The region will not be in a strong position to negotiate. Like I was saying, if we have 47 countries speaking with one voice, if you say access and benefit sharing is a priority or local manufacturing capacity for the region, it's difficult to let go of 47 countries talking together. So when we speak together, we have stronger position. And then, of course, if we don't participate, it will be a missed opportunity for us to strengthen our preparedness and response capacities for both epidemic and pandemics. So let's make sure that we are also playing our part. We are sitting on the table and negotiation with others so that tomorrow we will be in a better position than what we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so like I said, this is the timetable from now to the end. The end date is WHA 2024. All teams, the INB, WG, IHR, are going to submit their reports to the Assembly for consideration. So we have the links here. You can click all documents, everything I've presented is there, both for the IHR amendment and the pandemic treaty. Please try to read the documents as well to bring yourself up to speed. Some of the sessions that are public are also recorded there. You can listen to them, see the negotiation, and bring yourself up to speed with the discussion so far. So thank you very much. I'm going to open it up for questions and contributions. Open for questions, please. Madam Ojo, could you help with the questions, please?
So far, no question. I'm not seeing anyone.
You can either raise your hand or type if you have any question. Yeah, if there is no question, can we have the Kenya team? Dr. Atman Matondo is going to tell us how they've been doing for the Kenya coordination. He's part of the IHR National Focal Point for Kenya. So feel free to ask him questions. Dr. Matondo, the Kenya experience. Please go ahead. Your slides are showing clearly.
Hello.
Hi. Okay.
Okay, so just want to be sure that my background is blurred. How can I exit full screen?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dr. Matondo, clearly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. I want to present on behalf of the Kenyan team who have been busy working on, or rather participating in the two processes that we've just been discussing. So let me just start. So as we all know, there are these two interrelated processes at WHO. I think Dr. Mary has just talked about, and they're all towards strengthening preparedness and response to health emergencies. So Kenya is participating in both. I think they are normally back to back often. The pandemic treaty, so the INB, and the amendments of IHR, the WGIHR. So we have had this history of development of a WHO pandemic treaty, I think way back from March 2021, when there was this call by the global leaders to strengthen global solidarity and all that. And I think Kenya came in strongly in November 2021, when we supported the establishment of the INB to draft and negotiate the convention, also known as the Pandemic Treaty. And our president actually last year met the Director General and pledged Kenya's continued support for development of this pandemic treaty. So Kenya was one of the earlier supporters of this, and we were even joined what was called Friends of the Pandemic Treaty. So just to show you how far we've come to this. And our participation has is based actually on the whole of government approach. So basically from our president supporting, we came back and using the whole of government approach, established an interministerial negotiating committee based on the law that we have, the Treaty Making and Ratification Act that we have in Kenya. So we nominated relevant or qualified persons from various ministries to be part of this committee, to be able to negotiate and support drafting of this. So this came from various ministries, departments, and agencies within the government. As you can see below, there are 8 ministries where the participants come from. Majorly, Ministry of Health is the host of this, but we have a very strong support from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, also the Ministry of Interior and Land Administration, National Administration, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, and I think we are discussing One Health in both the INB and also in the amendment of the IHR. So Ministry of Information, Communication, Digital Economy, State Law Office. So we were just told about the next meeting about putting the legal language. So this team from the state law has helped us to actually understand some of the provisions in the treaty and also in the IHR. And then we have the National Treasury and Economic Planning, again, talking about all the financial issues, healthcare financing, all the equity issues, and then the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. So we have all these ministries and departments involved in our discussions for these 2 processes. So we participate in meetings actively, actually. Kenya has participated in 6 INBs and 5 WIHR meetings as of today. And I think the next meeting in November will be the 7th INB. So Kenya is actively participating, and we do this hybrid way. So we have in-person participation. So we liaise closely with our team in Geneva. So we have our permanent representative in Geneva. And then we also travel, a few of us whenever possible, to participate in the meetings in person. And then we have the rest of us joining virtually. So a link is shared before the meeting, and we all go through the materials, the resources, so that we are ready for the meeting, and we participate, share our opinions and positions for that matter. So we have this calendar of meetings that are shared regularly with the negotiating committee. We even have a WhatsApp group just to prepare ourselves and discuss matters arising during meetings and even before meetings. So for most meetings, normally we have pre-meeting workshops, not for all though, but whenever we can. And this has got some good support from WHO. And normally in these pre-workshop meetings, we come up with country positions. And also we see if we can align with the African position, because as I think Dr. Mary mentioned, often we have the position from Africa, and then we have positions from countries that we align with, or they're friendlier to us. I think maybe that can come in the discussion. So we see how we align with these positions as we develop our position. But importantly, I think this meeting is basically to understand the processes better. I think it's one of the things that we've seen is most of us were not present when the IHR 2005 was developed. So we just read provisions, we don't know what they mean and who decided. Now we have an opportunity actually to understand what's going to these documents, who is suggesting that and why, what is being said, what's not being said, what language is being used. So there's a lot of learning in these processes, and therefore I think these meetings help us to basically catch up and be part of this, or be part of these processes, even virtually. Of course, one of the challenges we have is these meetings are relatively frequent, and as you know, government officers, most of African countries, we have a lot of things on our we have more than one position. I'll be doing this and be doing 2 other things at the same time, and these meetings are quite frequent. Therefore, they require a lot of time to be able to prepare for and participate in. So that's one of the things we've seen. But other than that, I think they are very quite interesting to participate in, and you learn a lot from them and understand what the decisions are being made, and what thought processes actually being involved in coming up some of these positions. So the way forward now is to continue with active participation, I think, until the WHO 77 next year, where I think we will see whether the world is ready for this treaty, and whether we are also ready for the new, for all these amendments being made. And we plan to continue with our coordination committee for the subsequent processes. So if the treaty is agreed upon, then the domestication processes in the country will have to follow, same as the IHR processes, because I think there'll be some changes to maybe the national, the NFP, there'll be changes to a few of the things, and therefore I think we will still participate to make sure that the country is ready to adopt these two documents or processes. So yeah, very short presentation on what we are doing as Kenya, and I hope you can ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for the Kenya team or for me? Tomatondo, I saw one question from Mohammed from Ethiopia. He's asking, where does environment falls under the 8 listed ministries? Dr.
Oh, thank you so
Matondo.
much. I wanted to know who asked the question so that I can address them.
From Kenya, from Ethiopia is Mohammed, I think.
Okay.
It's Mohammed from Ethiopia.
Thank you. So we have these are just the ministries and that we have listed here, but we have also departments and agencies which are not necessarily part of the mainstream ministries. So we've had, I think, somebody from the National Environment Management Agency participating. And also we have a team from the tourism, which I think tourism and wildlife, who also represent the ecosystem component side. So yeah, so we do not have everyone, that's for sure, in the committee, and we are continuously improving the membership. Sometimes, as you may be aware, we ask for representation from some ministries, but sometimes we don't get the representation, or we don't get the nomination or appointment of those people, and therefore you have to keep doing, you have to keep rewriting back to those ministries. So this is a challenge that we face, but I think we have majority of the people that we need for this process. Thank you. I know I have Kenyan colleagues online.
Yes. Any other question? Dr. Miriam is saying either we have understood everything or we don't understand anything if we don't have question. So which one are we? We have understood everything, or it is too complicated, we did not understand anything?
I think maybe from my from my experience, and then maybe I have colleagues here. I think I've seen Olivia and Grace. I think they're very good. They have very good experience in this process. Is if you don't follow closely, then you get lost in the process. It's such an intense process. You really need to know what was discussed the last meeting, to know what's going on this meeting, and maybe reference 3 other meetings before, just to keep up, because there are a lot of suggestions, comments, and then there are those official meetings, and then there are those unofficial meetings which are discussing specific areas. So if you don't participate on those ones, sometimes you don't understand actually where people are coming from and why are they insisting on this rather than that. So I think it demands a lot for participation from, and I think it's one of those things that I feel we should do more. We should, as Africa, because as I said earlier, we were not there when they were developing the IHR 2005. And therefore, we just found this document that we abide by, but we were not, most of us were not responsible for its creation. And here is an opportunity actually to participate and be part of the process from the beginning. And I think, I feel from experience that it's an important process. And I think most people must know what's happening and be part of that. Thank you.
Oh, I agree with you, Dr. Matondo. It is important we participate. We can easily get lost. That's very true. Too many things, but it's important we participate. We are making history, so let's be part of the next version of the IHR, at least if not the INB, since you're NFPs. Dr. Savani from Guinea. Dr. Savani?
Oui, allô?
Oui?
Allô, vous m'entendez?
Go ahead, please. We can hear you, yes. Go ahead.
Oui. Ok. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis Dr Savané, point focal national RSC en Guinée. Je suis venu en retard. J'ai eu des petits soucis de connexion. C'est pourquoi je n'ai pas pu suivre le début de la réunion. Lorsque la question a été posée, qui a compris, qui n'a pas compris, qui n'a rien compris du tout, il m'a été très difficile de me prononcer dans la mesure où les retardataires n'ont pas droit à la parole. Je voudrais bien, qu'il vous plaise, de revenir sur cette question afin que nous puissions être au même niveau d'information. Encore une fois, je m'excuse de ce retard lié au souci technique. Merci pour la tenue de cette réunion.
Okay, no problem, Dr. Savani. We will share the recording and the slides as well, and we will continue with the update. Actually, we'll make it more regular so that people will be up to speed. Dr. Ladun from Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mary, and
you also reflect on your participation and coordination in Nigeria, please. I know you're active too.
yes, it will be an opportunity to share our experience, maybe the next meeting as well. But I have a few comments which I've noted, and I have a question for the Afro region. So part of my comment, having participated in both IMB and the IHR amendment meetings, virtually and physically in Geneva, I would just like to encourage the member states, IHR NFPs generally in the region, to be more engaging and be part of what is actually going on. Just like Asma noted, it's very easy to get lost if you don't keep following up. And it appears majority of IHR NFP across different countries are not even aware of what is going on, because most of these communications are directly to the Ministry of Health, and most of the NFP, they are within the National Public Health Institute. So we've noted that disconnect, and majority of them are not abreast of what is going on as per the negotiation. And this has brought up a lot of disconnect between those that will implement the document in terms of domestication and the colleagues on the floor that are currently negotiating this document, most especially in the African region. Is not as obvious as compared to other regions. And also, one recommendations I've also noticed, a lot of colleagues from other regions come with a lot of proposals and a lot of push to negotiate for their proposals, which is not as that strong with the African region colleagues. So most times we don't really, at the floor, we don't really get a lot of inputs from colleagues within the region, mostly basically because maybe they are not really being carried along, or they are not too much into the two instruments. So this is a good initiative, and it would be good if we can keep this up once in a while, so that WHO Afro can keep us abreast of what is going on, and also keep off my colleagues' interest in this process. And so I have a question, Dr. Mary. What would be the recommendations of the WHO Afro on the domestication process for these two instruments once they are passed? Is it advisable that country look at using the same coordinating entity to coordinate both the IHR on the pandemic treaty, or they're proposing having a separate coordinating mechanism for the implementation of pandemic treaty? Thank you, and over.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Laden. Theo Ben from Namibia.
Yes, Dr. Mary, many thanks for the floor, and just to also join colleagues who spoke before me in thanking the WHO Afro Regional Office in convening this meeting. It's quite a very,
please? Okay, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thanks. I just want to express appreciation really for convening the meeting. And just also to encourage you at the Afro office to continue to have these type of meetings. In fact, it would be quite helpful for us for these type of briefings to take place more frequently, even before some of these INB or IHR meetings, so that possibly also do to experiences which could be a way also to strengthen our participation as an African region in the subsequent meetings. But really also just to express appreciation to Kenya for sharing their experience. Namibia also had a similar journey like Kenya, and we would also be quite interested in sharing our experiences in future meetings. I took note that from the Kenyan experience, you managed to host sort of pre-meeting workshops at the country level, which has also been supported by the country office of the WHO. So I think that is a very, very good move. It's maybe something that the WHO Afro office can encourage the country offices to continue to provide a platform for the national IHR focal points to have this type of pre-workshop meetings or pre-meeting workshops at country level. I think it's a good move, and it's something also that we in Namibia initially started off doing. We also ran a little challenges when it came to the participation. And so we also just to from the Kenyan experience, how the participation been from other ministries, ministries responsible for agriculture, ministries responsible for environment, ministries responsible for justice, the Attorney General. How has the participation in these workshops been from those colleagues? Because from our experience, you know, it seems as though you know, if the colleagues are not going to participate, for example, in person in Geneva, you know, then there's no real incentive, if I can call it that, to participate, especially when it comes to all the competing priorities we have in our respective line ministries. So that's just one question I wanted to ask, to see whether you have also encountered those type of challenges and how have you overcome them. And then the other question I had was, Dr. Mary, I think you mentioned it very well, indicated where the two processes are now. It is a legal process. The documents that we are discussing now in the INB and the WGIHR, these are legal documents. And so I was wondering also, again, from country experience, you know, how important is it for example, the Office of the Attorney General or the ministry responsible for justice to be involved in this process? As you know, we are now in quite an advanced stage, you know, in the WGIHR, maybe not so much advanced in the INB, but that's just a question I would have. But again, really just to appreciate the country experience that has been shared, and of course the platform that has been created. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. All useful contributions. I will allow Dr. Matondo from Kenya to respond to your questions that is directed to them at the country level. But to attend to Dr. Ladun's question earlier on recommendation for domestication, when we get, normally because the structures in countries are quite different. So it's going to be context specific, basically, but we'll be there to support when the need arises after the adoption of the two instruments for countries, the stages of domestication of these two instruments, the revised IHR and the pandemic instruments. So participation, it's normally virtual and face-to-face. I think they allow 2 people from each country to sit in the room and others will have to join online. And it will be helpful for other ministries that are engaged in the process to also join and at least listen to what people are negotiating. Dr. Matondo, the legal process, yes. The issue of domestication, you will need your parliaments and the ministries of justice or attorney general office. So I believe it's good to carry them along right from the beginning, but Kenya could reflect on what they have been doing at the country level. Dr. Matondo?
Yes, thank you so much, my colleague from Namibia. And Namibia is very active, I think, when we follow in this process. So the reality is we are not very different from you. I think representation and participation is one of those things that is a challenge. I think the pre-meetings really help to galvanize, local sort of understanding or support. And those are attended very well because they are planned in advance. And therefore, I think a month before, that's when or even more, we plan for those pre-meetings. And therefore, in those meetings, that's where we actually look at the provisions being discussed in the upcoming meeting and even agree on the position of the country and look at also the African position and see if we align. So a lot of the work is done there. And then during the actual meeting, members participate to just follow and also back up our colleagues who are now on the floor, and maybe in Geneva. Participation is dependent on time availability. And we are not in control over the other ministries. They have their own schedules. And as I said earlier, these people have more than one task that they are doing at every time. Some are on travel. And therefore, sometimes it's very difficult to get everybody on board. So it really requires dedication, which is a bit tough for national officers. The other thing I also noted is I don't know about the other countries. We really do not have experts. We have people who know something, but we have deficiency of experts. Because every time you listen to those discussions, there are people who know the document end to end, and they know this part. So this section, the second provision after that, and all that. And then most of us are just learning as we go. And I feel there's still need for a lot of technical expertise. I don't know how this will be built, but it's really important, especially even in the legal department. We have people who know how to negotiate from our Attorney General's office and Minister of Foreign Affairs, but most of them have never done health-related issues. They do a lot of trade things. But here it's health equity, benefit sharing, One Health, a lot of new areas. And therefore, I hope this is an area that is built so that we have people who can support us in many more capacities going forward from the legal teams. So yeah, so I don't know if I've answered that very well. I said earlier, I have my colleagues here from Kenya and we participate in these processes. If they have any more to add, that'll be great. I also I want to, of course, agree with Dr. Ladon from Nigeria. Yeah, I think just to emphasize that we really need to follow up with these processes, so that we don't look back and say we had an opportunity to and we didn't do what we had to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Matondo. Kenya team, Dr. Grace, Olivia, do you want to jump in? Anything you want to add?
Yes, Dr. Mary, this is Grace.
Yes.
I could just add to what Dr. Mwatondo said, is that we extend the invitation for the meetings in Geneva to all the members of the interministerial committee. So, and ask them to support their travel and accommodations. So for those who are able to travel, some of them have even attended those meetings more than the colleagues from the Ministry of Health, because it is dependent on the availability of resources. So their participation is also dependent on how well they are supported to attend this meeting in Geneva. And they actually come back and share their experiences, and that has really enhanced their quote-unquote motivation to support the process in country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grace. Very useful addition. Olivia, you want to jump in from Kenya?
I really don't think there is much my colleagues have not said. I think the issue of bringing in together and the fact that we are able to have teams, not necessarily teams from Ministry of Health, but from the other MDAs actually attending the meetings is a plus for us. So at any one time, we always have someone from Kenya representing, whether it is a team from Capital or the team from Geneva itself, so that we have people presenting our positions and our country position and stuff like that.
Thank you very much. So any other questions or reflections, additions, suggestions? So I think the next time we'll try to bring in the Geneva-based experts so that they can reflect on what they think are the challenges and the priorities, so that the technical people can give them inputs into that. So how often do you think, Dr. Miriam?
Thank you, Mary. Yes. Good afternoon, colleagues. I just wanted to add that it is very important for the NFPs to brief their ministers regularly, because the ministers are contacted by different people who are lobbying for different positions, and also in different meetings, for them to be able to contribute positively to this discussion. So it is important that the NFPs are well briefed, but they also brief their ministers so that all are in the know and agree on a country position that the ministers can always put out there to people that engage with them. Over.
This is a very important point, Dr. Miriam. Very, very important, because there is a lot of underground lobbying happening, and if the ministers are not aware of what the positions are, what are the arguments, it's difficult for them to make an informed decision and to provide the necessary answers when they are approached. So that's what we also saw from the meeting and the side event. There seemed to be some communication gap between the people participating and the ministers, not in all countries, but in some of the countries. So it's helpful that we brief them as soon as we come back, let them understand what the issues are, so that they are also ready to respond when the people lobbying for positions are coming to them. So I was asking how often you think we can organize this update from your side. What do you think is the appropriate time? Once a month? Once every 2 weeks? Anybody has a suggestion?
I think once a month will be okay.
Okay.
This is Ladu.
Yes, that's it. Okay.
Thanks.
Mary, there was also a suggestion from Namibia that
yes.
issue like this, a short for an upcoming meeting would be useful.
Yes, ahead of upcoming meeting, right? Yes, I noted that, and the support from the country office to them when they do pre-meeting to attend, to prepare their position. So we'll pass this information to the WRs as well, so that they can support them during the pre-meetings as they prepare their country positions. So ahead of meetings, we'll try to organize, and next time we'll try to bring in the Geneva-based experts so that they can also highlight some of the key issues around the discussions. There would be 7 IMB in November. So I think we will need, okay, thank you, Walter, once a month. We will need to have a meeting either very early in November or towards the end of December to have some discussion ahead of the meeting. The 7th IMB is going to take place in November. Okay. So we'll do regular follow-up once a month. And just ahead of a meeting, we will do a catch-up, even if it's just 1 hour, so that people are on the same page as they go for the negotiations. Any other suggestions on how you can be supported to improve your participation in these meetings? Like we said, they share the link. You can join from the comfort of your office, actually. Normally the links are shared. So if you don't get the links for the country registration, you can let us know. We can pass it to you once they share, so you can register. Because you cannot just wake up in the morning and say you want to connect. They share the link, you register with your country, and then they send you the link ahead of the meeting. So if you're not getting that, we are happy to forward it to you also. Okay. So we will continue as a way forward. Dr. Ladun?
Okay, so another thought I have, apart from the Geneva-based experts at the floor, just ahead of the meeting, the African region also usually meets to articulate their thoughts together and bring up their proposal as a region. So will it be okay just before the meeting that would participate in the African region meeting? So would invite them to be part of our meeting so that we would get to know what they are planning to push and ensure that we align different countries' proposal with what the region are planning to. Because sometimes it doesn't look good if as African region, they're making a proposal and a particular country within the region is opposing it. Sometimes it looks as if we're not united. Thank you, Anuba.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lade. This is a very useful point. I will ask for them to allow NFPs connect in their early meetings, preparatory meetings, if not for the IMB, at least for the WGIHR, so that you are aware of what they are going to push. So I will ask this questions. Like we said, I see Namibia also supporting. We will invite them for the next meeting so that we are talking with one voice. Okay. So let me give a chance. One more, if you have any suggestions, questions, reflections, before I hand over to Dr. Miriam to give us the closing remarks. So like I was saying, as a way forward, if there is nobody that has any additional thing, we agreed that we are going to be meeting once a month to update on this process, and also try to have a short meeting just ahead of the upcoming meetings, whether IMB or WGIHR, to discuss. And we agreed that we'll bring in the Geneva-based experts into the meeting. Any updates we receive, in case you are not receiving, we will try to also forward it to your emails so that you can have it as well. Madam Ojo?
Thank you, Dr. Mary. Mine is that the WCO colleagues should please help with the contact details of the NFP representatives, because when we send messages, a lot of such messages bounce back. So it's like maybe they've changed or something. So we need to have we need to update our list. And also for WCO colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. WCO, if your NFPs have changed, please communicate. We noticed that quite a lot of people are not updating the NFP list before they leave the role. So please communicate the list so that the information will get to the right people. Okay. So if there are no any other businesses, I'll call on Dr. Miriam to give us the closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, for this meeting. And thank you, colleagues, for participating in this very important meeting. As one of you has highlighted, we are participating, we are all participating in history making as we develop the new pandemic treaty, as we revise the IHR 2005, maybe it will now become IHR 2024, but it is very important that we contribute positively to these processes because it will count, our contributions will count for our countries and our populations in the future. The COVID experience showed us that there were some gaps, and it would be very important now to try and close those gaps in this IHR in favor of our countries, but also to make sure that this pandemic treaty really includes our own interests. And as member states, so we are trying to give you all the necessary information to enable you make these contributions. WHO is always available to support. Whenever you have questions, even before the monthly meetings, it's okay to email to Mary. Even if you send me, I'll forward to Mary and team to give you the appropriate answers to your questions. With that, I want to thank you all for your participation in this meeting and declare this meeting closed. Thank you all and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miriam. Thank you all and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Muito obrigado. Thank you. Obrigado.
Thank you. Bye.
Merci beaucoup. Bye bye.
Merci. Merci, merci.